We are part of Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Eagles! Swinging a miss, stuck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, welcome in episode 204 of Drunk on the Phils. But Eric, just when we thought this team wasn't going to get hotter, they just continue this train rolling. They're down there taking care of business in Miami. You got guys up and down the roster, guys stepping up. This team just couldn't be hotter. Talk to me about this red hot fighting Phils team.
Yeah, it's been great to see. I've seen a lot of discourse on social media the last couple of weeks about, the Phillies having an easy schedule. We knew this coming into this part of the season, and this was, everyone was saying preseason that this is the part of the schedule you got to take care of, right? You got to beat the teams that you should, and we're stacking up wins right now. Run differential is really good. We're beating up the teams we should, and that's exactly what we're supposed to do. Every other team would want to do the same exact thing. So things are going really well. You have the pitching staff has been great. Our starters have been really good. Even Taijuan Walker twirled a gem yesterday. The relief pitchers, we were talking before the show about just how many. I think 7 of our 13 pitchers have an ERA below 2. So it's going really well on that side of things. The offense is clicking. You're getting contributions now from Castellanos, Rojas, Christian Pache has been hitting the ball really hard. So it's kind of like you're getting contributions from everyone, and you really have to have it, especially when you got like Trey Turner down. Schwarber was sitting yesterday because of the back tweak. Everyone's doing what they need to do.
This is the thing that drives me nuts. If they weren't winning, we'd be crushing them for not beating the teams that they should.
Yep.
They're beating the teams that they should, and we're complaining about the fact that they're not taking care of business with the teams that they should. Like, this is what good teams do. Good teams take care of the teams that they should be beating. They should be taking care of the Marlins team, a Marlins team that's, for all intents and purposes, going to plan to be as not competitive as humanly possible with the way that they've already dealt Luis Ariz, right? They're talking about, I heard them talking on the broadcast last night about, they're essentially showcasing guys for the trade deadline to, kind of parcel off as much as they possibly can. Like, what did you want them to do? Like, did you want them to struggle with these teams? Like, you either have to pick a side. You either have to be okay with the fact that they're taking care of the teams they should and build up that cushion for times when you are going to play against these upcoming series. You're going to see series in the next couple of weeks with, they're going to take in a couple of weeks, they're going to take on the Rangers, right? They're going to have a series upcoming with the Yankees. They're finally going to play the Mets. You're going to have the next series in the upcoming weeks with the Braves. You want to be able to have that cushion, so then you take care of business. But like, this is like I want to yell at the clouds kind of conversation. Like, what did you want them to do?
Exactly.
The 7. So the 7 out of 13 pitchers that you're talking about, right? So you're talking about, Hoffman, Strom, Suarez, Turnbull, Wheeler, Kirkring, and Ruiz, all with ERAs under 2. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you got Ranger Suarez, who is, the piece you had, that you had put out, highlighting essentially the hot electric start that he's had. He is just super, super fun to watch. The most docile way to kind of field the ball and then just like casually throw it over to first, like you're having a catch with your pop in the backyard. Like, talk about some of the stuff in the story.
So he has been lights out. And he's doing it. He's not a guy who throws 100 miles an hour. He doesn't need that. He has a huge pitch arsenal. He's able to keep guys off balance. He's getting strikeouts, but he's also inducing weak contact. Part of the interesting things that I kind of highlighted on yesterday was he's the first Phillies pitcher the only Phillies pitcher since Steve Carlton to win 7 of their 8 starts to a season. And he's the first one since Grover Cleveland Alexander in 1916 to do it with an ERA of 150 or below. Which is, so he's in the record books now, not just with the greatest pitcher of in Phillies history, but also he's breaking records from over 100 years ago. So it is interesting, and he's just so cool on the mound. Everything he does, it's just like you said. It's I feel like he's probably like one of the least divisive Phillies right now. I don't know how you don't like him. However, going back to people having to always nitpick about things. That piece that I wrote yesterday, right? And this is why Facebook is one of the funniest places in the world to me. No way someone could have something negative to say about Ranger and the article that was put out. Right now, I had one about Castellanos. Castellanos is divisive. I know people don't like his low average. He's doing better. I can see.
We'll talk about him in a minute because he's been pretty good in the last 15.
Yeah, but on the Ranger piece, someone still is putting out there that every team he's pitched against isn't good. I'm just like, why do people need to constantly find something to nitpick about? He has been pitching so well. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's put himself in Cy Young, in contention. We're seeing it right here that Mike put out. It's just like, I don't understand how you can be upset about anything he's doing. He has been just absolutely lights out. He's so fun to watch. I think there's probably some chance of a little bit of regression back to the mean, just because it's really hard to keep doing what he's doing. But if he keeps getting the weak contact and can mix in this huge pitch arsenal, I don't think we're not going to see an ERA balloon up to in the 4s like it was last year, maybe high 2s, low 3s. But that's still really good for your number, who's being considered your number 3 pitcher, but he's pitching like an ace. So
when I look at this, I'm going like, again, this is like like the old man sitting on the porch, get off my lawn, like what, like you're essentially searching and creating opportunities to like this is like, watch the game, right? Don't pull up the box score, don't look at the team, like watch him pitch. Like and during the broadcast last night, they were talking about Castellanos and why he's enjoying pitching or playing behind Ranger Suarez. And he's talking about the fact that he's got like that all the mannerisms on the mound are all the same. Reminded him a lot of Cliff Lee. In that it becomes very robotic, but the arm angles are all the same, but the pitch arsenal is different. Like how you can look at that player and start to begin the conversation by poking holes and not acknowledging all the good things is beyond me. I just that's the part that I don't get. I don't understand. And something that made me laugh pregame, they showed a video of Ranger Suarez and Sixto Sanchez out in the outfield, just like during BP. And I'm going, wow, like what opposite trajectories for two guys that were, essentially, thought of as like the next like cornerstone pieces of your rotation. And if you had told me it was going to be Ranger Suarez, 4 or 5 years ago, I probably would have questioned your intellectual ability, like it because everything that you saw from Sixto Sanchez in the minor leagues was like just the ball just jumped out of his hands, electric movement, really top of the rotation trajectory. And since going to Miami, it has been something to he has certainly left something to be desired. Mark and I were talking yesterday. We were talking about the fact that he reminds us of like a guy that should be playing in like the Delco Sunday League.
Yeah. Yeah, he that was another one. People were upset about that trade. It's like it's funny, everything we've talked about so far, people are poking holes in. But yeah, I mean, that's another trade worked out, great for the Phillies. And it stinks because Sixto was a really exciting prospect to kind of watch come up. We didn't really have a lot of those who actually panned out at that time. We were actually just talking pre-show about some of our, I think it was our 2014 top 10 prospects. But we really hadn't had one like that. And then we trade him for, at the time, the best catcher in baseball. And it really, pans out. And it stinks because Sixto, the reason he's kind of in the spot he is because he just couldn't stay healthy. I was curious to see how he was going to be because he did have that short period where he was in was it the beginning of last year, the beginning of 2022? I forget which year it was, but he had like 5 or 6 starts where he actually looked really good. Then he got hurt, and I think he ended up missing like the rest of the season or something like that, or missed a good chunk of it, came back and didn't really have it. So it is a shame that he kind of fizzled out, but it just goes to show prospects are never a sure thing. We saw it with Don Brown. We saw it when they didn't want to trade Kyle Drabek or those guys for Halladay. They ended up doing it, but everyone wants to hold on to these prospects. And Painter is about as close to a sure thing as we've had in a long time. I don't want to trade him. I'm not advocating for trading him, but I'm just saying look at how you can see that sometimes it's better to unload and get the guy that can help you win now than it is to kind of bank on a guy coming up the ladder.
I mean, Eric, when you look at trades, the team that gets the best player in the trade wins the trade, right? Like the JT Realmuto trade is a really good barometer for that, right? Like not a single guy from that trade panned out for the Marlins. Jorge Alfaro was a guy that they thought could be like a power hitting catcher, and he was serviceable, but never.
Right, he hung on for a little bit, yeah.
Never elite, right? Like you look at Sixto's, oft injured, overweight, not like the prospects for him are not great. And I mean that you talked about like Drabek, the guys that they traded in that Roy Halladay. No, like those guys, the best guy in that trade turned out to be probably Travis d'Arnaud.
Yeah, probably right.
But then something I sent you a couple minutes before we got started, and this goes into that like dealing the prospects because you don't know versus the guy, the player at the major league level that you do know. In 2014, the Phillies' top 10 prospects, and I'm just going to go from 10 to 1. At 10, you had Severino Gonzalez. 9, you had Aaron Altair, Cesar Hernandez, Ethan Martin, Carlos Tocco, Roman Quinn, Miguel Alfaro Gonzalez, J.P. Crawford, Jesse Biddle, and Maikel Franco. Right, and out of that list, right, J.P. Crawford is probably the best guy out of that list.
He's having a decent career out in Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Correct me if I'm wrong. Gold Glove. He had a couple.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's got at least one. I know he has at least one.
He's got at least one. Cesar Hernandez was serviceable for a while.
He was serviceable.
But like out of that top 10 years ago, like you're talking about one guy who's still in the majors.
Mm-hmm.
When it really does lend itself to the conversation of like. When you're talking about, do you push all in and make a deal for a guy that could push you over the edge in the immediate? You have to it doesn't surprise me when Major League Baseball teams kind of go all in for the guy now because you're going for the known versus the unknown.
Yeah, exactly. The nice thing is though, this year, I mean, there's not many gaping holes, like barring an injury. we're not at a spot where I think the Phillies you have to really worry about it. I mean,
Mm-mm.
every team around the trade deadline is going to shop around, especially for like bullpen help or maybe even some starting pitching depth. Just depending on the pitcher's health and everything like that. But we're in a good spot where it's like we don't need to make that big move. Like going back to 2022 when we traded for Brandon Marsh, center field was a hole. Right now we have 3 guys that can play that position.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are elite defensively. One is Marsh is above average, but I like him a lot better in left field. And we're starting to see Rojas hit. Christian Pache, I saw a stat this morning. I think like out of his last like 9 at bats or something like that, like I think like 4 or 5 of his of the hits he's had have been over 92 miles an hour or something like that off the bat.
Wow.
So he's starting to smoke the ball, which is good to see. And we're seeing it from Rojas too. He hit the home run the other night, which is always good to see. So we don't really need it, but like that's a trade where, okay, that was something imminent. We needed it. Now it's like I was actually talking to some friends yesterday after the Marlins game, and one of them proposed the idea. It's been floated around out there. I've seen Jazz Chisholm being a guy. I don't know if we really need him. Center field is, I think, set. He's flashy. He can be a good player, but I feel like he's also like we don't need more streaky guys, and I feel like that is exactly what he is.
Yeah, I would tend to kind of like there is a lot of excitement that comes with him in terms of like the pop and the power,
Yes.
but I think the inconsistency of what you would get versus what you already have, like to me it would be more of like a lateral move. That's not a move that moves the needle.
No.
The place where I see them possibly looking is like with the inconsistency that you're getting out of Sir Anthony Dominguez. I think right-handed arm out of the bullpen is where I would tend to lean. But then you also look at what you have from what you're getting from Spencer Turnbull out of the bullpen now. I know they're going to try to keep him as like the piggyback guy that like on starts where you have Christopher Sanchez or Taijuan Walker that like you can pull them in the 5th, 6th inning and then let Spencer Turnbull go finish whatever it is, 6, 7, 8, 9, and kind of save your bullpen that way. That's kind of how I see it. But if I'm looking at a place where I see a need for improvement or potential need for improvement, it would be in that area. Cause I think what the inconsistency that you're getting from Sir Anthony Dominguez makes me kind of want to lean that way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think every team, whether you are the best team in baseball or the worst, you can always use extra bullpen help. Like it's never going to be something you can have too much of.
You're right.
And it's funny that really the only thing we do have to complain about is Sir Anthony being like a little inconsistent. That's I guess a good problem to have. But yeah, I mean, if up and going into the season, that's exactly what the front office is saying, right? We're going to evaluate what we need by the trade deadline and then go from there. And I think this is a really good way of doing that, right? Everyone else is playing well. It's funny, the Turnbull situation, piggybacking. They're trying to piggyback him off of Sanchez, and then Sanchez ends up pitching a gem and goes 7 innings. So it's like,
it's true.
I guess it backfired, but again, another good problem to have, right? So, it's a really good situation they're in right now. But yeah, I don't. And again, knock on wood. Hopefully, everyone stays healthy. Losing Turner obviously was a big deal, but everyone else has kind of stepped up. Like Sosa's been pretty good. In his absence, Merrifield's
Cassie's heating up. You look at the production that he's got. Right, you're starting to see power. And the thing that I look for with him is when you start to see him get power to opposite field, you can tell that you can tell that the patience is there because you know that when he's struggling, he's jumping out way ahead, that there's a ton of swing and miss. I think the thing that I'm liking is that I'm seeing the patience. I'm seeing him with the ability to be able to drive the ball in the opposite field. Like you saw, the most recent home run, right, goes opposite field gap. I really like what I'm seeing from there. And right, you're right. The other guys in the lineup are stepping up. You're seeing Rob Thompson have to be a little bit more creative, with where some of these guys are, right? Schwarber's out last night. He sits out the game with the back soreness, but you're seeing other guys step up, right? Real Muto gets the opportunity to DH, but you see Stubbs with, second base seemed to be a black hole yesterday in that game with the guys that were thrown out at stolen base, guys that were getting thrown out at second base. It is nice to see it as a collective.
Yeah, it's been great. The base running yesterday on kind of both sides was really weird. But yeah, no, Cassidy's been hitting the ball really well. I just did a piece on him too the other day, and just doing some deep diving there. His whiff rate is actually lower this year than it was last year.
Ooh, okay.
And his contact with pitches in the zone is actually higher than it was last year. And last year, let's remember, he was an all-star. Like, he had a pretty good year last year. So I think the signs are all there. Not everyone can start off hot. I mean, but he started off, really, really bad. But there's things that, like you said, are like, taking the ball the other way. That, to me, that means he's seeing outside pitches and waiting on them a little bit, taking them that way rather than whiffing them or trying to pull them. So those are good signs too. So he's going to come around, but he's one of those guys where people are going to get mad at him all the time because he's going to be inconsistent, right? He's going to be like Reese. He's going to be like Pat Burrell. You're going to get hot streaks from him, but you're also going to get cold streaks from him. And it's just who he is. I mean, I know he's making $20 million a year. People are going to get upset about that, but the power that he's one of our only right-handed power bats that we have right now. JT's actually been hitting for some good power, but Cassidy is one of those guys you have to rely on. So him getting these extra base hits, hitting some more home runs, that's exactly what we need from him. And right now, I think he's on the right track. I know his batting average is still in the low 200s, but that's what happens when you start off the first month hitting like 133 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Eric, the thing that we have to remind ourselves is, like, when you look at how wildly productive this team is, right, it's not a wonder why you have to get contributions from guys all up and down your lineup. You got to get contributions from Cody Clemens when, Bryce Harper goes out and Cody Clemens comes in, right? Yeah. We were talking about the fact that he had, he's got 2 home runs in the 9 at bats.
Yeah, like, he's doing what he needs to do. Yeah,
like you're now getting the contributions, right, from Castellanos, from Rojas. You're starting to see that power. That's not you need that in order to go 21-3 in their last 24. They're not going to go through those stretches by relying on your core guys, especially when one of your main core guys is out. So I love this team. Really feels like they are driven to kind of right the wrongs of the last couple of years. And that to me seems like it's the focus. The way that the camaraderie is, right? When you see, the post-game interviews with Johan Rojas talking about Brandon Marsh, when you see Sunday Night Baseball with Brandon Marsh, kind of, loving on Alec Boehm and they all seem to be interconnected. They all want to play for each other, which is a different level of team camaraderie.
Yeah. And I mean, Schwarber alluded to that in an interview at the end of last season, just like how these guys, love playing with each other. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they didn't want to make a ton of moves, right? They knew they had the pieces. They, made it to the World Series 2 years ago. They were 1 win away from getting there last year. Like, they didn't need a lot to, of one of those huge, like, move the needle moves, right? You can make you can make kind of lateral moves, keep the clubhouse the same. Not many guys changed, right? You add Whit Merrifield, but you lose Kimbrel, right? I'm trying to think, is there anyone else that lost?
Yeah.
I mean, not really much, right? So it's relatively the same. You could tell these guys like playing with each other. They like playing for each other. Even, what was it, yesterday or 2 nights ago, when Cassidy made that catch going back to the wall and Rojas jumps on his back for like a piggyback ride. Like, it's just like these guys are just so fun. And even when they're on nights off, they're going to different things together. They're posting on their Instagram stories. They're all, they're going to different Sixers games, things like that. So it's like they're.
Well, how about the video with them at Castellanos' birthday party, right? Yeah. And it's so funny. It's so funny to see them, like, they all look like they're like us. Yeah. Right. They're like a bunch of dudes in like their mid to late 20s in their friend's backyard at their friend's kid's birthday party, but except the fact that it's like being like privately catered by like
Right.
an elite level chef, outside
Sure,
of
yeah.
them flipping the burgers, right?
Yeah.
They all seem to be just like hanging out together, which is when you see that level of camaraderie, that seems to me like that's a product of their environment, right? That's a product of them feeling comfortable enough to be themselves and knowing that they have the support from each other, that they know that if they go up there and do their job, right, then all is well, right? And if someone is struggling, someone else is going to pick it up. Someone else is out, someone else is going to step in, right? And I heard someone trying to make an argument to keep Cody Clemens on the roster. Now, I don't know where and how you make room for that. I don't know who you would send off. I mean, he did have a really good spring. When he's come up, he's been productive. I don't know if that's more of a product of like, if he gets more time, does that give him more time to like get exposed?
I think
Or
absolutely that's what happens. Yeah.
like that's, I think people fall in love with that. I mean, listen, we're Philadelphia. We fall in love with the the last guy on the roster at the end of the bench. And when he does really well, everybody's like, well, get him more time. And I'm going, hold on. Pump the brakes. Like he should not be replacing Nick Castellanos in the outfield. As much as Castellanos has struggled in the past and started to improve, right? Just that small sample size is not one that kind of elevates his status into the starting lineup. But the contributions up and down the lineup have been great.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're right. Like, I think with Cody, he's not like a young top prospect. He's a guy who's going to do exactly what you need him to do in this case, right? Fill a role, play, once or twice, get a couple of bats once or twice a week and do that. I mean, look at what happened with Sosa last year. So when Harper was out and Bohm was getting a lot of time at first base, Sosa was playing a lot of third. And Sosa, being an everyday player, got exposed, right? There's a reason he's a bench guy. He's a really, I love Edmundo Sosa in the role that he's supposed to be playing, right?
Right.
I'm wondering if he's getting a lot more time, obviously, with Turner being out. He's a good guy to have in that role, but you're not going to get you're not replacing an all-star bat there, right? You're going to get a guy who's probably going to hit somewhere around 250. He's going to hit a couple home runs. I feel like he does get a lot of clutch hits at different times, but
he does. I'll always remember that one in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's kind of what I always think of too. So I just think, people fall in love with the idea of Cody Clemens because he's just like the rest of those younger guys, right? He seems like a fun guy to hang out with and everything, but he gets too much playing time. Yeah, I think he gets exposed. Not saying, again, he has a role. Everyone on the team has a role to fill, and all of them are doing it, right? You can't and we have to kind of temper our expectations for some of them, because not every guy is an all-star caliber player, right? Every team has this. You need a good bench. You need guys to do that, and you need the depth there too. Being able to use Cody Clemens is that kind of that go-between guy between AAA and the major leagues for a few weeks here and there is exactly what the role he kind of needs is.
Cody Clemens is your classic 4A guy,
right?
Right. He's your guy that will could be able to come up and contribute in small spurts, right? But is not good enough to be an everyday starting player.
Right.
And speaking of the camaraderie, did you hear the interview with Todd Zalecki about the conversation between Bryce Harper and Trey Turner?
Yes.
And how talk about that for a little bit, because the way that played out and the way that I heard that conversation really made me feel like, all right, this team is really dialed in.
They are, yeah. And it's kind of funny, someone telling Bryce Harper, hey, you need to make an adjustment, being one of the best hitters in the league. But Turner, obviously, right. He's out right now, right? So this is not the first time he's helped someone make adjustments this year either. He was helping Johan Rojas earlier in the season too make adjustments. So he might be gunning for Kevin Long's hitting coach job here. But the fact that he did that and then Harper kind of turns it on. It's like these guys are they know what they're doing. They know what they're looking for. They want to win. They want to help each other out. And you have a guy who, who's Bryce Harper, right? He's one of the biggest faces in the game. That's something that like a lot of, I think stars would be like, I don't really want that getting out. Like, why am I taking advice from other players and everything?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he like relishes it because him and Turner obviously buddies going back to their days in Washington and everything. But the fact that like they're doing this and helping each other out and looking for stuff like this just shows you like how dedicated this team is to winning.
Right. I love it. I love where they are. I love what I'm seeing. Talk about the lineup flexibility, because you're seeing now, obviously, with Turner being out, we've had the opportunity to see Stott a little bit at short.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing Sosa a little bit. You're seeing, when Stott moves over, you're seeing Whit Merrifield sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing a little bit of some flexibility that obviously comes with guys being out. What does that do for this team in September and October?
It's huge. I mean, the fact that you can do this, and not only for an injury, but like you could do this and get guys rest and flex people around the infield that way. We see it with the outfield all the time, right? I mean, you have basically 3 guys who can play almost any outfield position, right? Or you'd feel comfortable putting them there. So having that is huge. And even the batting order flexibility, like Real Muto has been great out of the 2-hole since he's been put there. You can move these guys around a little bit, right? Bohm, because he's getting all the extra base hits, has been flourishing in the 4-hole. You're probably not moving Harper out of the 3-hole anytime soon. But the flexibility with just both defensively and offensively is huge, because again, you can give guys breaks if you need to. You see that other guys can step up if someone big goes down, right? Like Turner is probably the second face of your franchise, right? I mean, he's one of the he's the second highest paid guy. Well, he was anyway, until the Wheeler contract and everything. But he's definitely let's say at least top 3 faces of the franchise, right? So like he goes down, okay, that seems like a big deal. And then we find out it's 6 weeks. Okay, that's a really big deal. He's out for a long time. Are guys like Sosa and Merrifield going to be able to step it up? Is because Stott started out the season cold too. He's starting to heat up a little bit now. That's really good to see. And his flexibility, the fact that he was actually able to make some really good plays at shortstop was good to see, because when he was a shortstop, I feel like he was an okay shortstop. He's a really good second baseman, but seeing him be able to cover the ground there and make some of those plays is really good to see. Knowing that you can kind of, fill that gap.
It really speaks to how deep this roster is. And I know there's been a lot of conversation. Adam, we can touch on this right now. The way that the bottom of this lineup has contributed. Even yesterday and Friday, the way that you've gotten contributions from Sosa, from Pache, from Rojas, from Whit Merrifield, it really does lighten the load for the guys at the top of the lineup. And when those guys are getting on, and the top of the lineup is still productive, that's when this team can get dangerous. That's when they can. You've seen. I know that Miami is kind of down and out, but like that's what you should expect to see. Like when they're not scoring runs early, like yesterday. The patience of this lineup to know that those runs are coming, and and then you turn around and you see them put up 6, 7, 8, 9, and they do it with what feels like a lot of ease. I love what I'm seeing from this lineup. Talk about Alec Bohm, because Alec Bohm has been on a heater.
He really has been, yeah. Just the amount of doubles he's hitting. I feel like almost every day you could just like go on DraftKings and bet Alec Bohm to get at least two total bases.
14 doubles.
14 doubles, yeah. And is that, I don't know, are you on the league leader site there or not? Because I want to. I'm curious as to see how many. Like if he's in the. I know earlier in the year I think he was leading the league in it. But yeah, we're kind of seeing him come into the hitter that we always kind of thought he could be. And the last couple of years, I kind of thought, okay, he's a good offensive player, but he's not really providing the pop. Right. This year, we're starting to see that pop a little bit more. And even if it's in the form of doubles, like that's fine. He's driving in runs. He's doing what he needs to do. He's been hot. I mean, there's no way to put it. I think he went through that. What was it? An 18 game hitting streak, and then he kind of when I say cooled down, I mean he's still going like 1-for-4 almost every single night. But he's not having those scorching hot games, but he's still doing exactly what we need him to do right now. I think it's one of those things where we didn't really know who was going to be the cleanup hitter. I know preseason, you and I, we were talking about lineups and everything. And I think, you could kind of mix in a few different guys in that cleanup spot, right? You could put Bohm, you could put Cassie, you could put Real Muto. But they haven't really to move anyone around because other than, moving Real Muto up to take Turner's spot, because Bohm's been doing exactly what he needs to do out of the 4-hole there.
He's second in MLB.
Second. Okay. Nice.
Second to
I knew it was Mookie Betts.
Say right team, wrong guy.
Oh, Ohtani.
Ohtani.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically go down. You could go down that lineup and guess almost anyone.
Yeah, I mean that lineup.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean that lineup is going to be, especially in October. That lineup is going to be something to kind of reckon with, especially with the way that they've gotten the production that they've gotten from the pitching staff too. Right, from Glasnow, from like it's really gonna that team is the team that I feel like you're gonna want somebody to take them out, like what's happened in the last couple of years. The fact that you've gone through the last 2 postseasons not having had to face them, is really something to appreciate. But Ohtani, I mean, He's got 56 hits, 15 doubles. Where is he? He's got 11 home runs. I mean, just really, really having what essentially looks like an MVP season.
While recovering from Tommy John.
While recovering from Tommy John and not pitching.
Exactly, right.
Because the last time he did both, he almost won both. But Adam, the dropping this is not the time to start messing around with the lineup. That as much as Schwarber is not your traditional, he's not the leadoff guy that we all grew up with, right? He's not by any stretch, right? But you see the production in this lineup with him at the leadoff spot. There's no reason. He's not giving you any reason to move him anywhere else in the lineup. And I don't know where else you slot him in this lineup. Like, where are you putting him? Like, if your goal was to try to get him as many at bats as humanly possible, then the leadoff spot is the spot for him. And the way that he's able, there's been games, right, where he kickstarts the game with a home run, right, and you're up 1-0 before the second guy even comes up to bat. You're putting teams on notice early. I think having Stott at the back end of this lineup kind of serves as a table setter for when this lineup comes back up, because you want those guys like Marsh and Rojas and Pache and Stott. You want those guys at the back of the lineup to be on when Schwarber comes up.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm one of the biggest leadoff Schwarber advocates out there. Much to the dismay.
I feel like we need a T-shirt, Eric. Kyle Schwarber's a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I know. I might just get a tattoo of it or something like that. But I know, and it's people argue it, and I totally get it. I argue with my dad about this pretty much almost every game we watch. But it's one of those things where it's like he's doing what he needs to do. Again, they win with him in the leadoff spot. And this year, I feel like he's actually been more productive out of the spot. He's getting on base. He's still hitting the home runs. But we're starting to see him, hit singles, and he's still walking. So his on base percentage is still good. And yeah, then, like you said, where do you move him to? Because, you don't really want to move him to the 4-hole, because then you got Bryce in the 3-hole. You got 2 lefties in a row. So you bring in a dominant lefty out of the bullpen there. You kind of got 2 guys with a good matchup. So I kind of like splitting him and Harper up there. And the other point you made, getting him as many at bats as possible. It could be an 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts game, but it could also be a 3 for 5 with 2 home runs and 5 RBI type night too. So,
Right.
With him, it's just like, I think you want to see him get as many at bats as possible. He gets on base, and now that we're seeing production from the bottom of the lineup, he gets up. There's guys on base for him now. So I think it kind of works out for everyone right now to just kind of leave him where he's at. He seems comfortable in the leadoff spot, and until he gives you a reason to move him out, I don't think you need to play around with anything.
I love it. Well, let's look ahead a little bit, right? They're going to see, Wheeler's going to pitch today against, in Miami, right?
Mhm.
And then they're going to have the 4-game, essentially the 4-game split with the Mets. You're going to play 2 in New York, 2 at home, and then you're going to have the Nats at home for 3. Talk to me about what the next upcoming part of the schedule means in terms of, stacking up wins.
Yeah, I mean, division games are always going to be tougher. I think it's the way it is in almost every sport. The Mets are like one of those teams. I don't think they're good, but they're like they're annoying. They're kind of like battling. Yeah, they're frustrating, right? I mean, they've actually been putting up some decent games against Atlanta. So like I don't think they're good. I also don't think they're as bad as I was predicting in the beginning of the season. So, I think that's one of those things where, obviously I would like 3 out of 4, but if you get a split, I'm also okay with that. Washington is another one who's playing way better than I thought they were going to in the beginning of the season. You're getting contributions from a lot of different guys. Mackenzie Gore is actually really good in the rotation. Yeah. I didn't really think that was going to happen. CJ Abrams is looking like a really solid piece to their infield there. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's another one where, you just got to keep chipping away and winning series. Obviously, our sweep's good. They are, but I'd be okay taking 2 out of 3. If we go 4 of 7 against the Mets and Nats there, I think that's a successful week against NL East rivals there.
Yeah, I think the fact that you're going to play 7 straight division games, and you're going to have 5 consecutive games out of that stretch at home. I think if you can take 5 right out of that stretch, you need to continue to assert yourself as the team to beat in this division. And I think it's going to be really important to go into that 3-game set with the Rangers at home, feeling good about yourself. So, you're going to have, the more that you can finish up this month on a high note, I think the better off you can be, because you are starting to see some of those the other teams' younger level prospects, right? You're starting to see them come up, but the way that this team is built to be able to kind of come at you from every angle, especially offensively, on the mound, in the bullpen. They seem to be just kind of firing at all cylinders. It just really it feels weird, because it feels like we're normally not talking like this until late July, early August. So we also know that this season is a long season. We know that this team is not going to be winning 21 out of 24 for the rest of the season. That's not reasonable. But we also know that we need to continue to see them be productive on the mound. Talk to me about prospects, because there's a couple of the guy that's getting a lot of shine on social media, Aiden Miller, really looks like they got wildly lucky with the way that draft fell.
It really, really did. Other teams, GMs, and personnel have even been talking about it. How lucky the Phillies are that he fell to where he did, and it's all because it was a broken hand bone that teams didn't want to take him. And so he was a little bit older for his senior year, but like, to me, that's not an injury that is going to alter your career. It's not like a pitcher who needs, Tommy John surgery twice before they make it to the major leagues, right? It's a broken hand. It's a freak incident. It's not like it's something he's doing that caused that. So yeah, he is on an absolute tear. I think, so what's he hitting? He's hitting like 337 I think he has
I'm
like
trying to
3 or
look at
4
it
home
right now.
runs. Yeah, he's a guy I've been watching for a long time, or really just this year because this is his first real full professional season. But he's a guy where every single time I see him do something on social media, it's just like, yes, I love seeing this.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
really, just be really impressed. It's been really impressive. Doesn't matter, the power.
Mhm.
Power has been really
We're starting to
impressive
see
at the
that.
plate. The highlight that I saw the other day where he crushes a ball to in the gap, and it just there's like no doubt about it. He's hitting the ball all over the field. He's fielding his position really efficiently. You know, it's just really, really, really cool to see a guy that is showing this much promise this early in his professional career. When I looked up, he's already in the top 5 in Phillies prospects already,
Mhm.
behind Abel and Painter. But he's sitting right there next to Justin Crawford and Starlin Caba. It's just really, really good to know that those guys are coming in the pipeline. What is your position desire for him as he comes up?
So he's actually been playing mostly shortstop in single A with Clearwater right now. I know the projection was for him to be a third baseman, but
Mhm.
he talked a couple weeks ago and saying how, like, I think his desire is to play short as long as possible. I think eventually he's blocked though when he gets to the majors because Turner's there for the
Okay.
next 11 years. Now,
Right.
could he might have to move at some point because age eventually catches up with you and it's tough to play shortstop, near your 40s. But
Mhm.
it's so could he feasibly do that? I guess. But I think, when you're looking at Miller, I think we're looking at probably like 2-3 years for him, his arrival in Philly. I think Turner's still going to be your shortstop in that time period. So that's where you got to look at, like, okay, now Bohm's having a great year.
Right.
He's the guy. I don't know. It's tough because I think there's a reason they're not extending him long term, and I think it's because they're kind of waiting to see what they have in Miller. There's no need
Right.
in doing it because he's still. I think Bohm has one more year of arbitration left after this, so they could kind of keep going on those 1 year deals to see what they want to
Right.
do, and then if Miller does kind of falter and doesn't pan out, then you can maybe look at extending Bohm. But I think Bohm is already 27 or 28, so he's going to be, by in 2 or 3 years, we're going to start seeing him, kind of exit his prime. So it's one of those things that's tough. I think ultimately, though, Miller's going to have to be a third baseman because I
Yeah,
don't
I
see
think
him holding short.
the way that this roster is constructed right now, it wouldn't surprise me if, as he starts to climb the ladder in their minor league system, that he starts getting more time at the corner, and getting more time at third base, because that is to me where his position projects based on the way that the roster is constructed. Because you've got Stott, who's going to be in your middle infield with Turner. Harper's not going anywhere at first base. The only logical infield spot is third base. And, as much as Alec Bohm has been productive, you're also starting to see the point that you brought up is not something to kind of gloss over. The fact that they're not extending him is kind of saying something. It really just is, but he's in single A right now.
Mhm.
He's got a little bit of time before he's going to, kind of elevate his status to, he's also, he's 19.
Yeah.
So he's still on the younger end. But, still a really, really productive player and exciting. Really feel like you got wildly got a steal.
Yeah, that one was great. He's kind of the guy I've been watching the most in the minors, with Painter being on the shelf for the year. So and that's one of those ones where I think it is really exciting to see what he's going to do, because he does have such potential, and his frame. He's a big guy. He can hit for power. He's basically like exactly what you're looking for in a third baseman. Getting
Yeah.
him out of high school is also a big difference, right? Because Bohm was drafted out of college, so Bohm was already a little bit older. He was kind of more like you kind of knew what you were getting with Bohm a little bit more, I think. Whereas guys out of high school can kind of go so many different ways, but that's the difference here, right? He could feasibly make his MLB debut at 21, 22, whereas Bohm didn't really make it until 23 or 24. So you get a couple extra. Now Miller was a little bit older coming out of high school. I think he was 19 when we drafted him. But you kind of get those extra development years and then maybe a couple extra years in the majors with him. So
I like it. All right, Eric, the last thing I want to talk to you about. Talk to me about this. Phillies are going to play a game in June at 11:35 in the morning, exclusively on Roku. What are we doing? Like, why are we making, why are sports making it more difficult to find and watch games?
Yeah.
Like at the very least, if MLB wants to do this on a national level, fine. But at the very least, the game should be broadcast locally. They shouldn't be making it so that, like, I have to get a Roku account. I have to get an Apple TV account. I have to and it's happening across all sports, right? I have to get, if I want certain things, I got to get ESPN Plus. If I want, this, I got to get Apple TV Plus. I got I know that there's a lot of a la carte viewing here, but at 11:35 in the morning on an app that, what are we doing?
Yeah, it is weird. It's like you said, it's almost like every league right now is trying to make it more difficult to watch that league. This might be like an audition for Roku, I think, because I believe ESPN is their contract with MLB is done after this year. So they're looking for someone to pick up. I think they're looking for someone to pick up like Sunday Night Baseball. So, and there was rumors that Roku might be in the running for that, which again is a pain in the neck because now you have, Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV. You'll have Sunday Night Baseball on Roku. Luckily, I do have Roku on most of my TVs, so I'm actually like, okay. But it's like also, if you want to go out and like watch it somewhere, like you can't go to a bar and say, hey, can you put on your Roku or can you put on Apple TV? Because they're not paying for a streaming service when they need it, once a year. You know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of does take away that aspect of like going out and being able to watch it with friends and stuff like that. But it just seems to be the way it's kind of shifting where we're going to keep seeing this. I mean, one of the things like I was, as I was starting to get into, MLS soccer and the union and everything, they moved to Apple TV Plus. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't watch enough, especially because most of this season is at the same time the Phillies are playing. So I'm going to be watching the Phillies, but I'm like, now I don't even have the option to watch a union game because they're on another streaming service. Like, it's not even like it's sometimes on it. They're always on it. Like, it drives me nuts what some of these leagues are doing to make it more difficult. And I get it, but it's like, how many streaming services are you going to need to be able to watch all the teams that you want to watch? Like, it's crazy to me. But
I mean, if you think
all a money grab.
If you think about all the sports, right? You're talking about Amazon, which granted a lot of people have, but you're talking about Amazon, ESPN Plus, Roku, Apple TV Plus, there's four right off the bat right there. Like how and Eric, the point that you're talking about, like especially with the union, right? The union are part of the MLS. Now listen, MLS, they tied their wagons to a pretty good, wagon in terms of the Apple TV and needing to be able, but the need to be able to grow the game. Like you're talking about trying to put this, you're not going to put it on the same level with the EPL, right? But you want to try to grow the game so that it becomes more popular. So maybe in the off chance that you might be able to keep some of these homegrown guys, you're making it more difficult to watch. Like this stuff just makes me frustrated. I would really love to be able to turn on whatever game I want and not have to worry about, like, do I have that service? Do I have to sign into that account? Do I have, like, it's just annoying. It's annoying to make it more difficult to be able to kind of, dial into to be part of that fan base. But, listen, Eric, final thoughts to all the moms out there, whatever mom role you play, Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. Really just, whatever role that is, whether that's, your mom, your grandmom, father, mom figure, whatever role you play in your lives. Happy Mother's Day. Today's a day for you. Appreciate everything that all the moms do out there. The roles that moms play, and the amount of, the cartoon that I always think about is like, oh, mom, we hired all these people to replace you for the day. And it's like this pile of people in the front yard. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Eric, anything on the way out?
I don't think so. No, the only thing I was going to bring up was Aiden Miller, and we've touched on that. So I think, go Phils. Happy Mother's Day. I think that's it. Let's get some wins against NL East teams this week.
Sounds good. All right, on the way out, we'll check in with you in a couple weeks. Hopefully, talking about some more wins with the Phils.
Yep.
But we'll let Uncle Jack take us out.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said, Mike.
The swing of the miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.